So, question 6 in your assignment book. We have, in an investigation, they do like those investigations, don't they? The tolerance to copper ions of the grass, whatever, Agrostis tenuis, was determined. Samples were taken in plants growing in waste from a copper mine and from nearby areas just outside the mine. So we have got the mine, which has got copper, and then we've got the normal non-copper area there. Okay, and we've got grass growing in both of these two areas. Where's my green pen? Here we are. So we've got grass growing here, and we've got grass growing in the normal area as well. The mean copper tolerance of plants from the mine waste was found to be 4 times higher than plants in the surrounding area. So no surprises there. Explain how natural selection, here we go, could produce copper tolerant population in mine waste. So we just need to bend our natural selection theory to this copper example. So remembering our natural selection theory, we've got variation in the grass population. So variation in the population of whatever, let's say Agrostis tenuis. So it's variation in tolerance, in tolerance to copper. And as you can imagine here, so we're talking about the mine example. So tolerant plants are more likely to survive, more likely to reproduce, more likely to pass on those alleles. So tolerant plants more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on those advantageous alleles to the offspring. And then if you remember the last bit of the theory where we talk about, well, that increases the frequency of the copper tolerant alleles in the gene pool or in that population. So leads to an increase in the frequency of copper tolerant alleles in the population. In the mark scheme it says it uses alleles and genes interchangeably, but I would say alleles. Now if you're mentioning genes, say version of the genes. Part B. The copper tolerant plants flower at a different time. So different time from those non-copper tolerant plants. Explain how this might eventually lead to the production of a new species of Agrostis. So a bit of a weird one, this question. Different time, that will hopefully make you think of sympatric speciation. But also we've got this first, we're building on this first example as well, so we need to cover all of those to get our 4 marks. So first of all, I'm going to talk about these being reproductively isolated. So either with sympatric or allopatric, you're going to lead to reproductive isolation. So reproductive isolation, that means no interbreeding. It doesn't mention it in the mark scheme, but that is your example of sympatric. So I'm just going to write it there. Sympatric due to different flowering times. So I'd be tempted to talk more about that, but actually it wants you to talk about the general kind of natural selection and speciation that's going on. And so with these conditions being different for these 2 populations, and now we're saying that they're reproductively isolated, how could that lead to speciation? So conditions different for the 2 populations, that leads to different selection pressures. The copper or non-copper. And then you're going to get adaptations coming through, mutations, adaptations, differential survival, and so on. So different adaptations, the adaptations for copper or the copper resistance or tolerance. Different adaptations selected for, and eventually the populations becoming unable to breed with each other, and that's the key bit of speciation. So populations become genetically different and unable to breed to produce fertile offspring. So you might not have included the middle couple of points. You might have just talked about sympatric and reproductive isolation, and then the populations becoming genetically different. You might have mentioned, maybe in here, you might have mentioned genetic, I can't even spell drift, in there as well. 4 marks.